Awesome. All
Yeah.
right, so let's get going. We are super happy and honored today and very, very curious and excited. We are having Janet Philbin. Some of you know Janet. For some, Janet will be maybe a new face. But Janet, thank you so much for taking time to be our guest speaker on the I'm Conscious on the Go community. You are a licensed clinical social worker with over 30 years of clinical experience. You are certified hypnotherapist, certified clinical trauma professional, and a certified conscious parenting coach. At the same time, you're also an advisor at the Institute of Dr. Shivali Zabari, and you also serve as a nationally accredited hypnotherapy hypnosis instructor, if I got this right. And you are also the author of the Amazon bestseller, Show Up for Yourself, a guide to inner awareness and growth. So we are super happy that you have made time to come here today. And we are going to have you talk today on a little bit of a controversial maybe angle and topic. Can actually mother love become a chain? And we are super excited, Janet, to hear you speak. And hopefully we have some time for questions and a short discussion after your presentation.
Okay. Thank you. Everyone can see my screen still, right? Yeah,
Yes.
so good. Technology is going to be my friend today. So I decided to call this Letting Them Grow, Understand Enmeshment, Individuation, and the Parent. So we're going to just get started with this. Peanut butter and jelly for breakfast. Like, what does that have to do with anything? But this was a presenting problem a client of mine came to me with a few years ago. Her children were about 7 and 10, and the 10-year-old wanted peanut butter and jelly for breakfast. This mother was not having it. Absolutely not. In her opinion, peanut butter and jelly were not breakfast foods, especially before school. So that was just not going to happen in her life. So, as you can imagine, an argument ensued, and eventually the child was forced to eat what the mother deemed was an acceptable breakfast food. But when mom came into the session with me, she was upset and she relayed the story because she knew something wasn't sitting right with her. She couldn't figure it out at all. So we started to deconstruct it because she knew that she didn't want to be hurting her child. And there was this sense that somehow she was, but she didn't know another way. So we talked about it. I started with what are the ingredients in peanut butter and jelly? Well, there's peanut butter, and that's a protein. There's bread, and that's a carbohydrate, especially if you're using like a healthy bread, healthier than this photo here, then maybe that's even a better carbohydrate for your kid. And there's a little bit of jelly, so that adds a little bit of sweetness. Seemed like a complete meal to me. I didn't really understand the problem. And I told her I was really confused. I said, could your child eat peanut butter and jelly for lunch? She said yes. I said, could your child eat peanut butter and jelly for dinner? She said yes. I said, could your child eat peanut butter and jelly for a snack? And she said yes. I was even more confused. So your child can eat peanut butter and jelly all day long into the night, but is not allowed to eat it for breakfast. So we began to explore like what a rigid and random rule this was. And through our conversation, she connected it back to her own younger self, her own inner child, who was very much at risk of losing her mother's love if she didn't do things exactly the way it was prescribed by her mother. And I showed her how she was recreating this pattern. It was really eye-opening to her. And peanut butter and jelly in this case really represented a small piece of how this mom wasn't letting her 10-year-old be her own person. And it represented the enmeshment of the mom wanting the daughter to be like her, to have her views, to um, be constrained by the mother's rigidity. To me, it was the unconscious mind in action, the unhealed childhood wounds when they are not addressed show up again in our adult life. And the inner child raises their hand and goes, oh, I know how to do this. We get strict. You do it my way. You come my way. You stay closer to me, and there's no room for growth. So we began to look at it with this client. I'm still working with her. The child is now 13, and we have even more more things to deconstruct about enmeshment and allowing this child to individuate, but she's getting there. But I really want to thank Diana and Aaliyah for inviting me to the I Am Conscious on the Go workshop to talk about all of this, because I think there are things that all of us struggle with as parents. I know I have. So let's talk about what a parent's deepest desires are. And those of you who know conscious parenting are going to know this a little bit, but not everybody does. So I wanted to review it. So, what does every parent want their child to be? We all want our children to be safe, to feel loved, to be successful, and be happy. And I know you believe you're approaching parenting with your children with their best interest at heart. I've done the same thing. My kids are pretty much grown. They're 27, 26, and almost 21. And we really do our best. I really believe parents are, for the most part, always doing their best. But when we want these things for our children, we have to look at, are they coming from our own unmet needs? So it leads to complicated relationships with our kids if we're projecting our unmet needs onto our children and them from that place. So let's talk about safe. What do we understand this at its deepest level to be? Of course, we understand safety. But what if it's coming from the parent? We're not talking about concrete things like wearing your seatbelt in a car, wearing a bicycle helmet on the bicycle. When the children start driving, you don't drink and drive. These are basics, right? We all understand that. These are things that are non-negotiable. We just do them in the world. But what happens when the parent begins to override the child's natural curiosity and says no because the parent is more concerned that the child not get hurt than be able to explore the world? When the child is not allowed to take chances, this is when it's problematic, because what happens is the child learns, oh, I can't trust myself. I'm not allowed to have my own interests. I have to mute down my sense of adventure, and I need to be afraid of anything new because the parental control is disguised as love. The anxiety of the parent becomes oh my goodness, disguised as love, and the parent will just rationalize all their reasons, knowing that they're correct, because my desire is I'm going to keep my kid safe. So this anxiety of the parent decreases when the kid is safe, when your child is safe, because the parent feels better on the inside, but it creates resentment, inadequacy, and unworthiness in the child. The child's sense of self is deeply effective. It can affect their whole identity and their perceived abilities, and it limits them in what maybe they're able to do. I did this with my son when he was little. Now he's 26 now. I never let him play pee wee football. Why? I thought football was too violent. You're going to get a concussion. You're going to break an arm. He cried easily as a kid, and I didn't want to deal with that. So pee wee football was off the table. He had to play other sports. I didn't understand any of this back then. I don't know if I would have made a different decision when it came to football, but I certainly didn't understand this back then. So loved. What does it mean to be loved? Of course, we love our children, right? But what happens when we love them too much? In loving them too much, we put too much pressure on them to ensure they meet our needs. And we need to have our need to be loved so much that we overlove them. We love them too much. And your need for love as a parent overrides their own needs. Where, and you have to ask, like, are we asking them to honor us more than we're asking them to honor and respect themselves, all in the name of love? Hmm. I looked up love in the dictionary, and I just want to read you the definition. It is the strong affection for another arising out of kinship or personal ties. Maternal love for a child is an example. So, what if that love is too much? Let's just keep that in mind today because loving your child too much can hold them back. And then think about, why does the parent even need to love the child too much? It makes me wonder about the parents' feelings about themselves and how lovable they themselves feel they are. So the parent's own narrative may be, if I love you so much, then you will love me so much back. But too much love can be suffering. So does that parent feel rejected if the child doesn't love them back enough? Does this begin a pattern of over control to get the love they need because maybe they didn't receive it as a child from their parent? Maybe. We'll explore it more. Successful and happy. We'll talk about these two things together because I think they kind of go together. So we assume that if my child is successful, my child will be happy and vice versa. But we know the first question we have to ask is, whose definition of successful and happy are we measuring this by? Usually the parent is measuring it by their definition of success and happiness. So if a parent's definition of success and happiness is you have a quote unquote real job that earns real money like an accountant, and you can get any job and you'll always have a career for life, and the child does that, the parent's going to see the child as successful, and then, well, that must equal happy. But what if your child is really an artist? But they're allowed to like dabble in art for play, but they're not really allowed to be an artist for a career because how can an artist earn any money? So I'm not going to let you do that, the parent says. The child mutes it down to meet the parent's needs and becomes an accountant and is earning a good salary. So the parent looks at the child and says, oh, they're successful and happy. But that child is not feeling successful nor happy because they abandoned themselves, their truth, their own internal guidance system in order to meet the parents' needs. This time I did it right for myself. My oldest daughter wanted to study photography. Now, with iPhones and everything, everyone's a photographer. And I could have said, no, 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 you can't do that. You'll never earn a living as a photographer. But I didn't do that. I let her go to a special high school program to learn photography. And then she studied and majored in photography in college. And then she went and got her MFA in photography, a Master's of Fine Arts, which is the highest degree you can get in that field. She's doing a little bit of photography, but she's doing something else really to earn money. But she got to do it. And so, at least in that regard, I didn't limit her. And she found her own way. I trusted her enough. I was lucky. But let's talk about enmeshment now. Let me give you a definition. I have it here on the slide. A family dynamic where boundaries between the parent and child are blurred and emotional needs become entangled. So you can see from what I just shared on the previous slide about love, safe, happy, and success, everything is a bit tangled up. What does it even look like in a family? What does it look like in action? You might hear things like, I need you to be okay so I can be okay, honey. Or, if you love me, You'll do what I say. We're close. But maybe the kid is thinking, maybe we're too close. And there might be some confusion in the relationship where I end and you begin. And the child may even begin to assume responsibility of meeting and anticipating their parents' needs just to prevent the parent from getting upset. Because if the parent's not upset, then there are no repercussions to the child. So enmeshment is very complicated. There are books and books written about it. I've had to pare it down to very bare bone basics to begin to introduce it. So if you want to learn more, I really encourage people to read and learn more about it. There's a really great book called Codependency No More. It's an older book, but it's a great book. Um, so let's look at healthy connections versus enmeshment. So in a healthy connected relationship, we would have emotional support. With enmeshment, there's emotional dependence created. I can't be me without you. Whereas emotional support is, okay, I'm here. Come when you need. I trust you, right? Healthy, I respect your boundaries. Enmeshment, there's so much boundary confusion. The parent is butting in on everything in that child's life, maybe even doing their homework for them. It can get really messy. The parent doesn't know where they end and the child begins. Healthy encourages independence. Enmeshment discourages separation. That can show up in so many different ways. And it probably starts from when the child is really young, when children are supposed to have separation anxiety and the parent can't deal with that. See, they need me, they need me. They use it as a reason to keep the kid more. Healthy offers guidance, enmeshment, controls decisions. It's interesting. The photography example I gave you, there's someone else I know in my life whose son is now a freshman in college and wanted to explore photography as a major. The mother wouldn't let him because you're not going to be able to earn a living as a photographer when you graduate. And this kid was shut down by the mother. Mother, but I love you so much. But you can't do that. Guess who's having tons of anxiety? This kid. Um, Healthy. You're allowed to make mistakes. Enmeshment. There's so much fear about losing control. If the parent loses control, just like with this young man I just said about college and not being allowed to study photography, the mother is trying to over control and is so afraid of losing control that they over control. There's so much crossover in the relationships. Where do I end and where do you begin? The kid knows it, the mother doesn't, so she keeps pushing in. So, why does this even happen? There's fear, there's unmet emotional needs, there's cultural beliefs, there's personal trauma, there's generational trauma, and then we have coping skills in service of survival. So let me go through each one slowly. So if we go back to that peanut butter and jelly example, let's see how we can fit it in here. And it can begin with something so simple and advance as the child gets older. So what are the things that parents might be struggling with when it comes to letting go? They're afraid of losing their child. They're afraid maybe of being alone. Um, and I, as a therapist and coach, begin to ask, was that parent alone in childhood? Maybe that's something I need to explore. Maybe for you, that's something you need to explore within yourself. Unmet emotional needs. This gets unintentionally passed on to the child. And again, another question for you. Were the parents' emotional needs unmet in childhood? Maybe that's something for you to explore yourself, or if you're a coach or a therapist, begin to think about with your client, like I thought about with my client, what happened in childhood? That peanut butter and jelly has all of a sudden become so important. It's so incongruent. It made no sense to me, but I knew on some level it was making sense. to the client's unconscious mind. Cultural beliefs. It's important to understand the culture somebody comes from, the family culture, the religious beliefs, the ethnic culture, their country of origin, and have to understand within them, what does loyalty mean? What does sacrifice mean in that paradigm? What does obedience mean? What did the parents' culture teach them about family and parenting? So that this all plays into it. This particular client with the peanut butter and jelly, she was Latina, and the mother was raised in another country with almost nothing. So there was a lot of scarcity in her growing up. Personal trauma. What are the unresolved emotional wounds from their own childhood? This is important. Generational patterns. This refers to how the parent was raised. When the parent does not do their own work to heal their emotional wounds, they get repeated with their children. Like I said, the inner child raises their hand and goes, "Ooh, I know how to do this. I know how to do this." And we act with the wisdom of a 7-year-old. Doesn't help me at my age now. And coping skills in service of survival. This is important. All coping skills were developed at an earlier time in your life to survive something challenging. They had a purpose. And for the most part, I bet they worked. And when we survive something and the coping skill we develop in that moment works, we keep it because we're like, I know how to do this. I survived that one. I could survive this one, even if that means my kid cannot eat peanut butter and jelly for breakfast. Because I know eating eggs and bacon and a piece of toast is way better. And that's going to keep you functioning and your brain sharp during the day. So for the parent, if that challenge had to do with their own parent and in a meshed relationship with their parent, then when they were children, what did they do? They learned to meet the need of the parent. Just like my client's 10-year-old did, she eventually caved in and ate the breakfast the mother wanted her to eat. Why? To meet the mother's needs. She had to abandon her own needs. There weren't any boundaries. So those same survival skills just get reenacted. And because this is really important, our unconscious mind has no sense of time. It doesn't know that I'm all grown up when presented with a similar emotional experience in the present as what happened in the past. And if it's similar enough, the unconscious mind goes, I got this, I'll take care of it. It worked when you're 7, but it's dysfunctional now at 30 or 40 or 50. So that's why the healing is so important because we have to go back and rescue that inner child and say, no, no, you're okay now. I'm going to activate my adult self, but people don't know how to do this. And that's when everything gets so entangled and love becomes so complicated and it becomes this chain that we were talking about. It doesn't, it's disguised, right? It's anxiety and fear, control, lack of boundaries, all disguised as love. So there are beliefs and decisions a child may develop when growing up like this. They might begin to believe about themselves or decide for themselves, I'm not allowed to have my own opinions. If I make my own choices, I'll hurt them. My worth depends on making them happy. And I don't know who I am outside of this relationship. They may develop coping skills that are anxious, indecisive, or people pleasing, or afraid to leave home, take risks, or even say no. So this develops as a result of needing to survive certain situations. We develop these coping skills and they continue on in life till we unlearn them. So individuation, let's talk about this a few minutes. What's individuation? It means healthy separation. It is not rejection. So parents need to understand that your child is not abandoning you when they set boundaries or move out or date someone you don't like, or maybe they choose a different lifestyle, or they're a sign. These are all signs of healthy growth, not disrespect, but some parents misinterpreted it as disrespect. The parent is afraid of being abandoned and rejected. And again, this may have to do with their own childhood experiences. And the stage is set for the parent not to allow the child to individuate when the child begins to move through developmentally appropriate stages of individuation. The parent will start to protect them at all costs because the pain of abandonment is too great. They cannot go through that pain again. And they begin to love the child too much. I just wanted to give you a little bit about Margaret Mahler's theory on separation individuation because I want you to understand that all this is backed by research that has been done over the years in the field of psychology. So, what are some of her key concepts here? Psychological birth, not biological. This is the process where the child begins to develop a sense of being separate, a separate individual. I'm not symbiotic with mom. Symbiosis. This is the initial phase where the mother and infant are fused as a single system. So we start that way, but we have to begin to separate. It's healthy. Separation. The child's emergence from the symbiotic state begins and recognizes their own distinct identity and boundaries and individuation. The growth and development of the child's unique personality, ego functions, and sense of themselves. Oh, I think I covered that with my little thing there. Sorry about that. So these are just her stages of separation and individuation. So what can parents do? First of all, parents need to pay attention to their own emotional pain, find support to heal their emotional wounds, break their patterns, heal their inner child, and learn to activate their healthy adult self. This is important. These, this is all the work of the parent. So practice open, non-defensive communication with your child. That means the parent has to be calm and emotionally regulated. Get therapy or coaching for support and help you process your fears. Respect your child's emotional space. Recognize your own anxiety. It's your own and it's driving your reactions. And take a purposeful pause to take care of yourself. That means you really stop and tune in. What's going on with me? I have to take care of me first. And then celebrate the growth, even when it's bittersweet, because their growth is about them and not about you. You are not losing them or being abandoned. And if that's the experience, that's old because this is a normal part of the life cycle. So, how can you maybe move through this a little easier? What can we do? Get curious with your kid. Help me understand this choice. Tell me more. These are some things you can say in conversation. Support them. I'm here if you need me, but I trust you to decide. What would be different for that boy if the mother said that to him about photography? All right. I don't really get it, but go ahead, go explore it. I'll support you and I want to learn more. He'd probably even let go of the idea once he had a chance to explore it, or he would dive in head first and who knows, maybe become famous. But we're never going to know. Self-regulate, manage your own emotions when your child asserts independence. Learn the power of that purposeful pause and validate. I see this is hard for you. You're doing really well managing this challenge. Holy cow, wouldn't that make a difference to a kid? So there are many gifts when we learn to let our children go and grow. What are they? We raise children who are emotionally strong, who are self assured, who are capable of deep mutual relationships, who are able to have emotional safety in relationships with you and others. They have agency. They become independent and capable adults. And remember, letting go is not losing them, it's preparing them to come back as whole, healthy people. And that's really the goal. And the goal is also for the parent to become healthy and whole. So Thank you very much. Thank you again for having me. And this is everywhere you can find me and contact me. And I'm so excited I got to share this with you. So I'm going to stop screen sharing, I guess, if I can figure out how, where the button is for that.
Thank you so much, Janet.
I have no idea how to stop screen sharing, ladies.
Let's see if we can.
I know I should know. Maybe I need to make this bigger. Oh, I think that's what I have to do. I got it.
You got it?
Uh, it's still, is it still sharing?
It's still sharing.
Can
Uh,
you see it on your end?
let's see if we can do
Oh,
it.
I see, I see. I got
Okay,
Yeah.
there it is.
it.
There. Thank you so much, Janet. I think this was so valuable, and I think there's so much food for thought and a lot to digest because many of us mothers and parents are daily caught into this trap. You know, it's just because we love them that we worry about them so much and
Mm,
we constantly project on them. And you said something, what they have been a few subtle things like you are making my heart hurt or sink if you do this. Subtle
mm,
things like that can do. We do this all the time, but I'm sure we have questions, maybe Janet, from our audience for you. So maybe we can take the questions, and I'm sure Ala and I also have some things we
sure.
want to ask you. But let's see if we have from our audience something. Anybody with a question for Janet, please?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Janet. Very, very beautiful. And maybe not only questions, but maybe what kind of thoughts they have, what's coming up for the people.
Hmm. Yeah, I'd love to hear from everybody.
I have like a full page for you, Janet, but I'm curious to hear from our audience first.
Huh?
Anybody who is not driving.
I know it's hard. Well, why don't you start at my spur other people's?
Yes.
Yeah, I can share. I have a few, but one I loved the most. It was when you were talking about boundaries, and maybe it's our part of the world, but you said something that I find like fabulous. You said like sometimes the parents are doing their homework for them, and it's like crossing the boundary. And it's like 99.9% of the parents here especially in Eastern Europe, they are helping with homeworks and they never realize this is crossing children's boundaries. And it's simple as that to give too much love and to cross the boundary. And I think I'm pointing it because it's a huge example. And
Mm.
yeah,
It really handicaps kids because we think we're helping them. Doing it, sitting with them and supporting them while they do their homework is one thing. Actually, doing it is another because what happens is the kid gets to college. They don't
mm,
know how to do homework. They don't know how to write a paper. They don't know how to proofread. And I realize things are easier with technology these days, but they don't know how. So the over helping, the overdoing, the doing it for, they're handicapping their children.
yeah,
Like they don't
exactly.
realize.
Doing it for them instead of teaching them how to do it. But this
Yeah,
is when they will separate and maybe the fear they will abandon me. So,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
They won't need me anymore. Right.
mm, yeah,
And I
So,
think there's a very interesting thing in I think that's very typical, I think, of Asian cultures where the parents feel they're not being good mothers if they allow the kids to do it on their own.
Mm.
You know, it's like a good mom sits every afternoon with the child to do the homework because I have friends who feel guilty that they don't really know what's going on in the child's, academic in class with the studies. They're not up to date with what the child is learning in class.
yeah,
yeah, it's a lot of cultural conditioning exactly
Yeah.
around.
yeah.
I'm not good mom if I don't know the homework of my kids. I'm not
Hmm.
good mom if I trust my kids they can do their homework alone.
Hmm.
And I'm not a good mom if all the other moms are helping and I'm not. I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with
Yeah.
me? I hate it actually because I was never helping. And everybody's like, oh, but I'm, sitting with them. And I'm like, am I doing something wrong? It affects us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if any other reflections, but as you were talking, Janet, I can give a real life example that happened probably a day or two ago. My youngest daughter, she's almost 18. She's on a trip with other girlfriends in Portugal at the moment, and she's sending me a video clip of her with another girl jumping off a cliff into the sea. Uh, at which side my hair went like this, and my first reaction was to write, "You are killing me, you just gave me a heart attack." But then I stopped myself and I asked that what is the message that I'm giving her when I send her this message? And all I managed to do was just to type her name like Dea with a lot of A and put some smileys until I figured out for myself what would be the right message for her.
Good for you. That's because you've done so much work on yourself. You knew that's that purposeful pause I was talking about. You knew to stop before you took any other action and didn't project your fears onto her.
Mm.
Plus,
So
she already sent you the video, so you know she's okay. So good for her for doing it.
mm. And very hard for us moms, right? Not to overreact.
So hard, so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Hi,
also,
lovely ladies. It's Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Our cameras are working very well, but thank you. I came in quite late, so thank you, Janet. Thank you, Aliyah, Diana. It's really been amazing for what I've listened to so far. Um, and my contribution really is also what we're not teaching our children is frustration tolerance.
Mm,
So I see it at school where kids, we're so quick to want to help them with puzzles and they can't get it right and they're getting frustrated and we want to just fix it. And just the ability to be able to sit with the frustration and then work through it. And I always say to the kids that I teach that it builds their resilience. If we allow them just to feel that feeling and sit with those feelings. So it was just something that I actually went through today with one of the kids that I was working with, and he was getting so frustrated. He was banging the table and he was stamping his foot, and I allowed him. I gave him that space. And it was just interesting to observe and to watch. And eventually he tried again, and I just kept encouraging him slightly and allowing him to do what he had to do. And eventually he got it. And it was just such a wonderful exercise.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a good example, Laura, because it really shows that why is the parent fixing it for the kid? It goes back to the
Yes.
enmeshment because the parent can't tolerate their own internal turmoil of watching their child be frustrated, right?
Correct.
So when I
Yes.
fix you, when I fix
Mhm.
the outside, I feel better on the inside. The parent is really not wanting to fix the kid. Really, the
Yeah.
parent is wanting to feel better themselves. And the only way for me to feel better is if you're not struggling, if you're not having a
Absolutely.
tantrum, if you can do the puzzle, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a
Yes.
great example.
Absolutely. Like,
Mhm.
and they see it as a reflection on themselves, as you said, Janet. It's like what's wrong with me? Why isn't my child keeping up with the other children if they can't get it right now? Why can't they count from 1 to 20 and the rest of the kids in the class can? So
Mhm.
it's all about that. And it does. It goes, as you said, goes straight back to the parent.
Mhm.
Thanks, Janet. It was beautiful.
Aw, thanks, Laura. It's good to hear
Mm.
you.
Thank you.
If I
Yes,
can
sure.
connect with that, uh, what stays with me is that the moment the parent is actually trying to fix the child is a selfish kind of experience because they are not, like you said, they are not trying to fix the child. They're trying to feel better themselves, but actually they are trying to fix themselves. And most of the people before fixing themselves they try to fix someone else to see how the fix is doing and only then to fix themselves,
Mhm.
so practically the child is selfish selfish guinea pig for for this process.
Again, if you said,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, which is kind of childish, actually.
Well, but doesn't it make sense that it's childish because the behavior of the parent is
It's
being
childish.
directed by their own wounded inner child who's not healed. So the
Yes,
parent might be 35, but the person who's parenting in the moment to fix the kid is their own inner 7-year-old.
exactly.
And that inner 7-year-old is naturally selfish. So
Yes,
I don't like to think of the parents as selfish because that has such a negative connotation. I more like to see it as there's a deep wound and unmet need here. And they're just going about it in an unhealthy way to get that need met and to make that wound not hurt.
exactly. And you
Yeah.
pointed out that the way for that to happen is actually for the parent uh, to be responsible.
Hmm. That's right. And do their own work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because when the parent becomes responsible, actually that enables the child
Oh, I think we lost the last thing you said. It enables the child to what?
to be responsible as well.
Yes, it gives the child room to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the moment that the child is actually allowed to be themselves
Correct. Yeah, love
and
that.
learn from these mistakes that
Hmm.
they are doing and learn from the mistakes of the parents as well, actually.
Yeah, if they're given room to do the learning, they would be able to learn from those naturally occurring consequences. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Shilpa.
Hi, Janet. Hi, Leah and Deanna. Thank you so much for this. There was an alumni call last week where Rory Vaden was speaking with Shafali, and the word that kept coming up for me was enmeshment, actually. So this was like perfect timing for a topic of conversation. And all I can reflect actually is because I was raised in a really enmeshed relationship with my own mother, who lives 30 minutes away from us, and I have a 10-year-old. So I'm kind of setting boundaries from this angle and also like trying to make sure I'm not repeating patterns over in this on this side with my own daughter. And I started realizing like part of it also I think is like we get so attached to the identity of mother that without that identity for some women it's or some parents it's like without the child who am I, and that can be such a jarring realization for some folks when if they've really devoted a lot of their identity to this particular role. And so just wanted to offer that, but everything was so amazing and illuminating, and the individuation piece is so important. And it's almost like the parent has to individuate as well from their role to allow their child to kind of fly and use their own wings. So thank you.
Absolutely. And it makes me, what you're saying, Shilpa, makes me think about parents when their child leaves for college, right? Who am I when I'm not your mother in your life anymore? Like some women fall to pieces. They just don't know how to be on a day-to-day basis when their kid goes off to college.
Totally. And many of my friends at the moment at that stage, and exactly what Shilpa, I think you have been saying, and Janet also, that who am I? What
Mhm.
am I going to do with my time now when my kids leave the house?
Yeah.
It can almost, and I have even some who have been saying, "Oh, don't go and study into another. Just stay home, just stay home." It just makes them feel much better.
I have a suggestion here on that.
Mm-hmm.
The mothers just can like give more attention to their husbands. And if they actually are doing that throughout the time of child growth, there will be probably no such question.
Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah,
Or or that leaves the woman not having any sense of themselves because they still haven't done anything for themselves. And now you're asking that woman to only be there for the man. And I'm sorry, I must disagree because that does
No,
not solve problems.
that's
It
not what
only
I
is
meant.
going to create more, in my
That's
opinion.
yeah, it would create more if the woman is doing it like all for someone else and she has been living for someone else. Yeah, that is going to give another contradiction here and more problems actually. But
Yes.
if she starts early or practically never stops after giving birth, then most of these are going to be, yeah, it's going to be some emptiness around, but there has been always something that the woman has been doing, and the woman, not the mother, because the mother is kind of a role that she's taking. And if she devotes everything to that role instead of being a woman, being a wife, being a person of the society, then all those problems are going to occur at some natural point in her life.
Mm.
Well, I think that we could go on a totally different tangent with that discussion, and
Yes.
I'm not going to I'm not going to touch it because it could get dangerous. So I'm just
Yes,
gonna
yes.
I'm
I'm
gonna leave
stopping
it
this
there.
up.
I'm gonna leave it there.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
stopping
thank
this
you.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
But it all comes down to how whole we are feeling as a person, right? And regardless of our roles, husband, wife, mother, whatever, it all comes down to how whole we are as people. But I just have a question, maybe if I'm a person, maybe it helps our audience that, Janet, so if I'm a person, a parent who now hears your talk, and understands, okay, there is this thing that is more authentic love, and there's this thing that is more fear-based and control-based love. How do I know as a parent uh, my reaction? How do I know if I'm reacting from, fear-based or what would be a practical tool for me if I'm starting just now?
Yeah. Well, the answers just really lie inside. So when we're reacting to something, it's like, really fast. We wind up reenacting old patterns, right? But if I can pause, something happens, I can pause, like you did with your daughter and her cliff diving. You wanted to be like, what were you doing? I love you so much. Don't die jumping off a mountain, right? But instead, you're like, no, no, that's about me. So your answer instead was loving from your heart, like, wow, look at that. Even though you're inside having a heart attack, you didn't project controlling love over her, like, never do that again. I can't believe you did that. Instead, you were like, wow, oh my God. And I love you, which is a different energy. So we as parents have to tune in. Am I going to react with anxiety right now? Am I going to react because I'm fueled with fear and I need to stop this? Or am I going to take a pause and just say, I love you. Help me understand why you're approaching this way. Help me understand why you want to jump off a cliff, jump out of a helicopter. Um, Help me understand. And that's much more loving than stopping them, right? Even if they're not doing their homework and the parent wants to jump in and do them, help me understand what's happening with you when you look at this homework assignment.
Mm.
Are you overwhelmed? Are you confused? Did you maybe miss something in class? How can I most support you as opposed to do it for you?
Yeah.
That's love. Because then it's not coming from the parent's own need. It's meeting your child where they're at to meet their need, right? So we're going there as opposed to pulling the child here. That's the
Beautiful.
way I understand it, though I'm sure there are a lot of different ways to understand it. I don't have the definitive answer on anything, that much I'll tell you.
No, thanks, Janet. But just to kind of distill it to some practical things that parents can take from this call is
Mhm.
really what I'm hearing is kind of pause, ask yourself the question, what am I, what am I afraid of? Why am I freaking out? Ask the curiosity kind of question to your child. Tell me more, all of that. I think all of these little practical things, if we can take and our audience can take with them, it would make a difference.
Mhm. Yeah, sometimes a simple question of what do you need right now?
Yeah.
Right? I'll share a little quick story. Some of you may have heard this. I've told it before, but when my daughter was, I don't know, maybe my youngest was 11-ish, 12-ish, she would still have like kind of emotional temper tantrums, which could last a long time. And as a parent, when your kid's going to have a tantrum, you feel it coming. Like you feel like you know it in your body. And I felt it. And she was coming out of her room down the hall at me, and I could feel this coming. And I just stopped and I said to her, what do you need right now? And it stopped her in her tracks. Instead of me saying, stop it, don't have a temper tantrum, don't yell at me, right? Because that was the pattern. Instead, I said, what do you need right now? She stopped in her tracks and she looked at me and she said, love. I was floored. In a million years, I wouldn't have expected that answer. So I said, "Do you want to just sit on the couch and have a hug right now?" And she said, yes. And I hugged her for like 2 minutes. Then she was like, okay, bye. And she was gone. It was like the simplest thing because I let go of my need to control her big emotion and I let her have it by giving her a way to express what she needed. That was a huge teaching moment for me.
It's so magical, right? And you only realize it once you have done it. So we can only encourage people, please do it at least once. And then once you have seen the magic, you will want to do more of it.
Right. That's why I share the story because it was so ridiculously simple and so powerful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Janet, I want to share something at the beginning I liked very much. You were talking about your client, how she
Mhm.
started, and about her enmeshment. And I missed a little bit how long she was in therapy, but it sounded like it's been a while. And this is something that I want to point for the people who are watching, especially for the parents, that this is something that we are not going to heal very quickly. It's a big process, and there is a lot of realization. I missed
Mhm.
the
I
time.
didn't, I didn't, I didn't share how long she's been in therapy because she's a more traditional psychotherapy client that I see. She's not a coaching client. I've worked with her when she was going through infertility, so pre-children.
Mhm.
And that child who she first came to me when she was having trouble conceiving is now 13. And
Yeah.
so she's been in therapy in and out over the years, but very much is now into conscious parenting and doing the work from that angle. But with every new developmental stage this kid hits, she's spicy. And so
I think it's
it's just
very.
peanut butter and jelly every day. It's like over and over again with a different example. Yeah.
And this was huge point for me because I don't think people realize how much time it takes. And we need to give us this time. And it's a process. And like you said, you come in therapy, you go, you do conscious parenting, but it's a process. It's not something that it's gonna happen with 1 hour session.
No, I always tell people it's a journey,
Mhm.
not a destination. It does, I hate to say it, it doesn't end. I've
Mhm.
been doing it too many years. My own personal work, it just every time I think, oh, I've got it, like, oh, there's that memory. Damn it. It's showing up. I got to deal with it. It's just how it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's so much worth it, right?
Oh, very much. Very much worth it.
Beautiful. So, any other last reflections, maybe? I don't know, Shilpa, Laura, Vidya, anything else before we are starting to close off?
I think maybe everyone can give one word what they are leaving the conversation with, just as a goodbye, maybe.
I think mine would be pause.
Pause.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think I'm sitting with individuation right now.
I'm sitting with reflection, inner reflection.
For me, it's moment by moment awareness.
For me, it's pure love and space.
Mhm. I feel pretty content right now. Like this is the path, like my own personal path and the path. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
You.
ladies.
You hear Vidya? Or did I?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Janet. Once again, thank you so much, and Shilpa, Laura, Vidya, and Ivo for joining us.
Thank you
And
so much.
Thank you, Alia. Thank you, Diana. Thank you,
Yeah,
Janet.
thanks for the opportunity. I'm so glad I had a chance to share all of this with everybody. I hope it's helpful.
Thank
it was very much helpful. Thank